Texas, Rick Perry. So he runs for president twice. The first time, no, it doesn't make it. Second time, he puts on glasses and goes, I look smarter, and runs again, doesn't make it, and then does what no candidate in the history of this fucking country did. Looked around at all the jobs that someone could do that had a certain amount of dignity after you've run for the presidency. And what did he say? No. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to be on Dancing with the Stars.
It's about time we let Donald Trump strut in, deck the border with some gold leaf, and throw up marble columns around Florida. Why not light up the Midwest with his name in big, flashy letters and sell the whole place to the Chinese before they catch on that it's half broken? This is what I've been waiting for my entire life. A president who isn't afraid to speak the truth. Lewis Black just dropped a comedy bomb on Trump.
And then this man, who couldn't remember during the debates the name of the department that they were going to make him the head of, is then chosen to be the head of the Department of Energy. And then what I figure is Donald Trump turned on the TV, he saw him on Dancing with the Stars and went, fuck, he's got a lot of energy.
And it's enough to shake Mar-a-Lago to its core. You've heard rants and seen roasts, but nothing compares to this. Black holds nothing back. Zero filter, maximum fury, and pure comedic chaos. Think you've heard it all? Not even close. This takedown is so savage that even Trump's spray tan might just throw in the towel. Stick around. This is one for the history books. I mean, Donald Trump, the man, the myth, the walking Twitter meltdown, is almost impressive in a way. It's remarkable how one person can pack so much incompetence, arrogance, and unchecked ego into a single spray-tanned body. If there were a Hall of Fame for political disasters, he wouldn't just get a plaque.
We're living in fictional times. If this was in a book, you go, this is a great book. Who could imagine the people that are around him, who could imagine those as characters? I find it hard. I look at Kellyanne Conway, but is she real? I'm not sure.
He'd have an entire wing dedicated to him, complete with golden escalators that only go down. You don't vote for Donald Trump, remember? He once promised to hire only the best people, but apparently his idea of best included a never-ending stream of grifters, sycophants, and folks who couldn't even spell their own job titles. His cabinet had more turnover than a cheap diner's waitstaff, with firings, resignations, and outright scandals happening at a pace that would make even soap opera writers raise an eyebrow. Every week felt like a new episode of The Apprentice, White House edition, except instead of hiring competent professionals, Trump surrounded himself with people whose main qualification was the ability to nod enthusiastically while he rambled about windmills causing cancer. And let's not forget his legendary Twitter rants. Before he got banned, his timeline was a bizarre mix of all-caps tantrums, outright lies, and strange personal feuds. The President of the United States, folks,
Donald Trump, come in. Put some gold leaf on the border and marble columns around Florida. Throw up his names in big lights over the Midwest and sell this whole place to the Chinese before they realize it's half broken. This is what I've been waiting for my whole life. A president who's not afraid to tell the truth about being a lying ass.
The United States was out here squabbling with celebrities, misspelling simple words, and waging war on the English language, all while turning a blind eye to real crises. His go-to response to any criticism? Call it fake news and double down even when video evidence told a different story. In the end, his presidency felt like a reality TV show where the stakes were global stability. And the main character had the impulse control of a toddler who just downed a gallon of Mountain Dew. Honestly, the fact that we all made it through is nothing short of miraculous. The moment Donald Trump won the election, it was like the United States took a deep breath and then immediately started choking on its own disbelief. And who better to capture the collective panic of an entire nation than Lewis Black? The guy is practically a walking, talking embodiment of an aneurysm in progress. Let's be real. When Trump got elected, the whole country felt like it was on the verge of bursting a blood vessel. There's Lewis, staring at America like a doctor diagnosing a patient who just swallowed a live grenade. and all he can do is point out the obvious. We are not okay. Then there's Texas' Rick Perry, who ran for president twice. The first time? Nope. The second time, he puts on glasses and says, "I look smarter," and tries again. Still no luck.
You talk a lot about the election in this show. Some people have said, "Oh, Donald Trump, that must make your job as a comedian so much easier." Do you feel that there's truth to that, or do you think that is false?
I think it's false. I think that it's made. I mean, like, you're sitting here.
Yeah.
And I was watching the first part, and you sit there and you put on. The news the news is funny.
Yeah.
You don't have to do. All you had to do is go, ta-da! It leaves no room for. How do you make funny something that's already funny? How do you make it funnier?
He's genuinely funny. He's genuinely funny.
Yeah, no, it's hysterical.
Yeah. You've known Trump for a long time. You've known about Trump, and
then, in a move no candidate in this country has ever made, he looks around at all the jobs that come with a bit of dignity after running for president and says, "Nah, I'm going to be on Dancing with the Stars." This is the same guy who couldn't remember the name of the department he was supposed to lead during the debates, yet he's chosen to head the Department of Energy. I can just imagine Donald Trump turning on the TV, seeing him on Dancing with the Stars, and thinking, wow, he's got a lot of energy. The United States didn't just become divided after Trump won. No, it fractured like a cheap dollar store plate the moment he walked in. Stepping onto that stage, he grinned like a guy who just scored a timeshare in hell. Suddenly, families were at war. Thanksgiving dinners turned into battlegrounds, and Facebook morphed into a swamp of conspiracy theories, cat memes, and that one uncle who insists climate change is just God testing our air conditioning. Trump wasn't just leading America. He was refereeing a demolition derby in a fireworks factory. And there was Lewis Black, standing in the smoldering wreckage, having the only sane reaction, losing his mind at the sheer absurdity of it all. Watching Trump try to run the country was like watching a dog attempt to drive a car, except this dog was somehow convinced he was nailing it. And let's not forget Trump's special way of unifying the country, by setting it ablaze and roasting marshmallows over the flames. Every time he spoke, it felt like reality itself had taken a hit to the head. One moment he was promising greatness, and the next he was rage-tweeting at a teenager for winning an award. It was like watching a magician who kept revealing his tricks but still insisted he was a wizard. Lewis Black could barely keep up, because every single day Trump did something so ridiculous, so mind-numbingly absurd, that satire writers were left twiddling their thumbs. Why bother making up jokes when reality was already one giant punchline?
You don't vote for Donald Trump, and the reason you don't vote for Donald Trump is one simple reason. He bankrupted a casino. It's almost impossible to bankrupt a casino. As a matter of fact, I could give any of you a casino. You could live in the hotel at the casino. And all day long you could drink, go to sleep, drink, your pants, go to sleep, and never, ever walk into the casino. Okay? And on the 365th day, you could walk into that casino, and I promise you, you will have made a profit.
Trump's first 100 days felt like a marathon for the country, and honestly, it was exhausting. Lewis Black didn't even need to embellish. He just had to read the headlines, like a guy slowly realizing his house is built on an active volcano. The chaos, the scandals, the constant shouting at windmills. America wasn't just divided. It was in a full-blown custody battle with itself. And there was Trump, perched on his golden toilet, tweeting through the apocalypse. Can you even watch cable news? Is that how you keep yourself informed? Because that's how I start my day. I turn it on and then promptly lose my mind. You sit there, and they've got to be stopped. 4 analysts for every little thing that happens. What does deplorable mean? It means deplorable, jackass. And let's not forget his love affair with walls. The border wall was supposed to be his magnum opus, his Great Pyramid of Giza, a structure so impenetrable that even common sense couldn't get through. But despite billions of taxpayer dollars, what did we end up with? a glorified picket fence that smugglers cut through with tools you can grab at Home Depot. Turns out steel slats aren't quite the force field he envisioned. Who knew? Literally everyone except him.
It's already been a month since the election. I guess time flies when I'm not ripping out what's left of my pubes. Since Trump's victory, half the country is excited and the other half is still at home in the fetal position. Me, I'm coping by shutting off the news for a while and...
Then there's his so-called business acumen that he never stops bragging about. I'm a genius, he insists, all while filing for bankruptcy more times than some people change their oil. The man treats bankruptcy like it's a strategy, not a failure. Casinos, airlines, a university. Stakes. Stakes. Who the hell messes up stakes? Everything he touches turns to gold and then crumbles into a pile of unpaid bills and lawsuits. If business success were measured by the sheer volume of lawsuits, Trump would be the Jeff Bezos of legal trouble.
Can you watch cable news? Is that how you sort of get yourself informed? Is that...
It's how I wake up. I turn it on, and then I lose my mind. You sit there, they've got to be stopped. You 4 analysts for anything that happens. What does deplorable mean? It means deplorable, jackass! You know?
And don't even get me started on his crisis management skills, if you can call them that. Puerto Rico gets devastated by a hurricane. And what's his big move? He struts in looking like a bloated creamsicle and starts tossing paper towels into a crowd of desperate people like he's practicing his jump shot. What was the plan? That they'd clean up the flood with bounty? Meanwhile, California's ablaze, and his brilliant solution? Raking the forests? Oh sure, that'll do the trick. Maybe we should also get Smokey the Bear a Roomba while we're at it. And then there was the pandemic. Oh, the pandemic. The biggest global crisis in a century. And this guy spent more time complaining about his press coverage than actually doing something helpful. People are dying, hospitals are overwhelmed, and he's on Twitter, rage tweeting about how unfairly he's being treated. I take no responsibility, he says. No kidding. That's the only consistent policy he's ever had. This isn't leadership. It's what you get when you put a reality TV star in charge of a country. It's like putting a coked-up weatherman in charge of NASA. A total disaster. If you know anything about Trump, you probably have a strong opinion about his buildings. When my dad came to New York a while back to see me, he wanted to check out Trump Tower, which had just opened years ago. So I took him there, and as we walked around, and he looked at it, and then turned to me and said, "This is what I imagine Rome looked like just before the fall." Now let's talk about foreign policy, if we can even call it that. He cozied up to dictators like they were part of an exclusive golf club while pushing away allies who had stood by us for decades. NATO? Too expensive. Russia? Too friendly. North Korea? Well, let's just say, if there were a bromance novel about Trump and Kim Jong-un, it would be titled Nuclear Kisses. And we can't forget his legendary grasp of history. He once claimed that the Continental Army took over the airports during the Revolutionary War. Yes, really. Imagine a historian in 1776 completely taken aback by the chaos of the present day. It's as if his spirit left his body upon realizing that, despite his extensive knowledge of World War II, he's now surrounded by a jumble of incoherent babble. Somehow, this mess still manages to include phrases like, very fine people. And let's not forget the claims of election fraud. Nothing screams, I'm a winner, quite like throwing a tantrum and crying foul when you lose. He insisted the election was stolen, but couldn't back it up, even after countless lawsuits, audits, and those frantic late-night tweets in all caps. The real tragedy? So many trees had to die just to print the legal documents for his baseless claims. The debates haven't even happened yet, but you know they're coming. And there will be 8 or 12 of these characters sitting around telling us what we already heard. I know what I heard. It's frustrating. I feel like this year, more than ever, we keep seeing these panels filled with campaign surrogates. They're there to represent the campaign, which is just wild. It's like the analysts aren't enough. They need someone to defend the absent candidate. The only time I've ever heard the word surrogate used is in a sexual context. So when I see a Trump surrogate or a Hillary surrogate, it feels like they've sent someone else to do the dirty work instead of the candidates themselves. It's still a bit too sexual for me. And let's be real, no roast of Trump is complete without mentioning his notorious social media presence. Before he got banned, his Twitter was a chaotic masterpiece. The man tweeted more than a teenage influencer, but instead of sharing makeup tips, he was dishing out, picture this, it's 3 o'clock a.m. and you're scrolling through misspelled conspiracy theories. Meanwhile, a thief is still waiting for a translation, and grammar teachers everywhere are mourning the tragedy of it all. Let's dive into the sheer audacity of this guy. He turned the presidency into his own personal ATM, charging the Secret Service to stay at his properties. He even pushed a made-up election fraud fund that funneled money straight into his pockets. And get this, he tried to host an international summit at his own resort. It's like he woke up every morning thinking, what ethical laws can I break before breakfast? The best part? His diehard fans still believe he's a genius. This is a man who looked directly at a solar eclipse without any protection, yet somehow, people trust him to run the country. He once asked why we don't just nuke hurricanes, thought Frederick Douglass was still alive, and called Tim Cook Tim Apple. He even believes sharks are out to get him. This isn't stable genius behavior. It's more like the plot of a bad sitcom. Now let's talk about Lewis Black, a guy who has spent years transforming rage into comedic gold. If Trump is the king of incoherence, Black is the master of slicing through the nonsense with the precision of a verbal chainsaw. He rants like a caffeinated tornado, and every time he goes off on Trump, he manages to articulate what the rest of us are thinking, only funnier, louder, and with about 10 times more exasperation. Trump's endless stream of self-aggrandizing nonsense is the perfect fuel for Black's comedic fire, whether it's about the infamous Sharpie-altered hurricane map, or the suggestion of bleach injections, or his intense personal vendetta against windmills turns every strange moment into a hilarious masterpiece of outrage. If Trump is the punchline of a joke, then Lewis Black is the perfect comedian to deliver it. Fast forward to today, and Trump is still out there, still ranting, still playing the victim, and still pretending he has some grand plan, when in reality, he's just winging it. Thankfully, Lewis Black is still around too, still shouting, still pointing out the absurdity, and ensuring we don't lose our minds in the process. If nothing else, Trump has given us an endless supply of material, and as long as he keeps talking, Lewis Black will always have something to scream about.